Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Ever wonder what that thing is that gets you out of bed in the morning? The force that pushes you to chase those huge goals? Well, today we're diving deep into that engine. We're talking all about motivation.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question. I want you to think for a second. When was the last time you were up against a wall? Really struggling, and you just wanted to quit? What was it that kept you pushing forward? A deadline, a passion project, a promise you made? Whatever it was, just hold that thought, because we're about to figure out exactly what that force is.
So first things first, what even is motivation? If we're going to figure out how to get more of it, we've got to know what we're dealing with, right? Let's get a clear definition.
Okay, so here's the textbook definition from psychology. And it's pretty interesting because it's not just about starting something, that's the initiate part. It's also about the guide part, like where you're aiming your energy. And maybe the most important piece, the sustain part. That's the real grid. That's what keeps you going when it gets tough. But here's where it gets really interesting. See, motivation isn't just this one big thing. It's more like a tug of war, a tale of two completely different forces that are always battling it out inside our heads. Okay, so on one side of the rope, you've got intrinsic motivation. This is when you do something just because you genuinely love it. It's that feeling you get when you're lost in a hobby, like painting for hours and not even noticing the time. Then, on the other side, there's extrinsic motivation. This is all about the external stuff, the rewards. You're working for the paycheck, cramming for a good grade, or, even posting on social media for those little hits of validation we call likes.
So that intrinsic stuff, the stuff that comes from within, that's the good stuff, the sustainable fuel. The question is, how do we get more of it? Well, there's this thing called self-determination theory, and it basically says there are three key ingredients. Think of it like a recipe. First, you need autonomy, that feeling that you're in the driver's seat of your own life. Second, competence, the feeling that, hey, you're actually getting good at this. And third, relatedness, feeling connected to other people. Autonomy, competence, relatedness. Remember those three? Because they're kind of the secret sauce.
But it's not just about those three needs. There's another layer to this, and honestly, it might be the most powerful piece of the puzzle. It's all about what you believe. Let's talk about the power of your mindset.
This all comes from the amazing work of Carol Dweck. And I want you to look at these two columns and be honest. Which one sounds more like you? The fixed mindset person says, I'm either good at it or I'm not. Like you're either a math person or you're just not, and that's the end of the story. But the growth mindset person, they believe that anything can be learned, that your talents aren't set in stone, they can be built with effort. Your starting point is just a starting point.
And this is exactly why it matters so much. See, people with a growth mindset aren't just trying harder. They're actually more resilient. When they fail or hit a roadblock, they don't see it as a sign that says, see, you can't do it. No, they see it as a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to rise to. And that right there is what keeps the motivational fire burning.
All right, so that's the theory, the what and why. Now let's get to the good stuff, the how. How do we actually take all this and use it to boost our own motivation? I've got a few proven strategies for you.
First off, let's talk about goals. You know how we say things like, I want to get in shape? That's a terrible goal. It's way too vague. Your brain doesn't know what to do with it. But what if you use the SMART framework? Instead of get in shape, you say, I'm going to run a 5K race in 3 months by training 3 times a week. See the difference? It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now your brain has a real, concrete target.
Okay, but even a big SMART goal can feel huge, right? Kind of daunting. So here's the trick. Build momentum with small wins. It's like a snowball effect. Break down that giant project into the tiniest possible steps. Every time you check one off, that's what psychologists call a mastery experience. And remember that ingredient we talked about? Competence? Each little win feeds that need, building your confidence and making the next step feel that much easier. And look, while you're knocking out those small wins, it is absolutely crucial to remember why you're doing it in the first place. This connects back to that other ingredient, autonomy. You have to find your why. When you can connect a boring, tedious task to a bigger, meaningful purpose, wow, it completely changes the game. A chore suddenly becomes a mission.
Last but not least, what do you do when you mess up? 'Cause you will. We all do. This is where that growth mindset isn't just a nice idea, it's your superpower. When you face a setback, the fixed mindset voice in your head screams, see, I told you couldn't do it. But the growth mindset allows you to reframe it. It's not proof of failure, it's data.
It's a lesson. This isn't just fluffy positive thinking, folks. It's a hardcore strategy for becoming more resilient. So we've got all these timeless psychological principles, but how do they possibly hold up in our crazy modern world? You know, the one with constant pings, dings, and notifications.
I mean, this is the real challenge today, isn't it? Our phones are basically professional motivation thieves. They're expertly designed to dangle these tiny, extrinsic carrots in front of us. A like here, a notification there, and it just hijacks our attention. Being able to protect your focus, to carve out time for that deep, meaningful work, that's not just a nice skill to have anymore. It's becoming one of the most important skills of the 21st century.
So let's wrap up with this one last thought. We talk about motivation like it's this magic dust, right? Either you woke up with it or you didn't. But all the science we've looked at today says that's just not true. Motivation isn't something you have, it's something you build. It's a system you can create for yourself, a fire you have to keep feeding, a skill you can get better at. You build it with every small choice you make. So the only real question is, what are you going to build today?